This is to my longtime friend and roommate, once roommate Keith Johnson, who wrote this piece on Facebook titled "The Return of Gunboat Diplomacy," and he was acting with what I felt was a surprising um, take on the actions of President Trump from the perspective of, well, gee, I didn't know we were still doing this sort of thing. But Keith, the fact of the matter is that United States history is replete with invasions. Uh, Most of them went well. Um, like, for example, Afghanistan. Others didn't go so well, like the Bay of Pigs. The vast majority of them worked. In the Bay of Pigs case, John F. Kennedy decided that he didn't like that, according to our uh, admittedly faulty intelligence of the time, Fidel Castro was basically a Soviet Union plant and didn't like that he was cozying up to the Soviet Union from President Kennedy's perspective and that of those who were gathering intelligence at the time. So they tried an invasion uh, with the ultimate objective of replacing him. It didn't go well at all. Not only did it not go well, the Cuban military beat the crap out of us down there. It was embarrassing. It was like a, if you want to look at it another way, as a precursor to Vietnam, which is another failed attempt by us, if you think about it, at invasion. So we have a number of these, and they don't end in a president being sacked. They don't end in a president losing an election. I don't know that one has yet. Nixon did pretty well. Uh, President Obama ordered the murders of a number of some really bad people in the Mideast who were known for killing Americans and all sorts of human rights atrocities. He wasn't kidding when, at the White House Correspondents' Dinner, in response to a comment by someone, he said, "I have one answer: predator drones." And the crowd laughed. And I said right then and there, he's not joking. He wasn't. The United States, for better or worse, has always been about the use of economic and military power to achieve an objective. Now, what's controversial in this instance is that this is a complete economic development directed invasion. In other words, hey, look, let's craft a reason to go in and extract the president, the president of a country, and then openly announce that we are going to take over their oil reserves, which just happen to be the largest in the entire world. And that's what everybody misses here. Okay? Venezuela has long had, well, actually, in 1971, they had the third largest oil reserves, but now, today, and since 1999, when they effectively nationalized their oil, their reserves have been primarily ran by and owned by a Venezuela directed consortium. But that consortium is going to meet a challenge because that consortium also has, as part of it, Chevron, which owns about, I believe, 39% of one of the largest areas within the main reserve that is in Venezuela, which is also the largest in the world. So this is not something that's going to go down well because it basically says, I'm using military power to make my friends rich. That's the message. And I think Tom Cotton got on television and said, well, it doesn't have to go to Congress because we've had the FBI and the military take, or the FBI take actions against drug dealers and no one had to notify Congress. This is entirely different. This is a head of state. So for Tom Cotton to say that just shows to me just once again how little he really gets what's going on around the world. And yet he's a senator. Okay. Uh, so was it the right thing to do? No, it wasn't. It was only done for one reason, and one reason alone, because Venezuela has the largest oil reserves in the entire world, and it comes at a time when there is an energy price crunch that having those reserves out there pumping oil would so quickly within the next 5 years solve. Uh, their reserves at their current use are projected to last about another almost 300 years. So a little more aggressive use would put at about, I think, the rate of 250 years. So maybe let's see 217 years. Okay. Uh, but the bottom line is the reserves are large, they're substantial, uh, and they're not playing what many see as their key role in our ability to have cheap, uh, uh, available energy for many to use. And that's the real issue right there. Now, you could say, weren't we supposed to solve that with clean energy? But we haven't solved the riddle of how to get as much useful energy out of batteries as we possibly can. For example, do we have an electric car that can go from mm, New York to San Francisco in one or maybe two charges, right? How about three? Okay, it's a stretch. When we get to a point, we have an electric car that can go 700 miles on one charge, all right, or really 1,000 miles on one charge, then we're doing something substantial. We're not there yet. And not only that, this administration has pulled back the plug on any research that would lead to the development of those kinds of vehicles, which is another issue. We've got to turn that around. So there it is, Keith. But again, I'm surprised that a number of people I would expect to know their country are just surprised that this happened. I'm shocked. I'm not so much shocked as stunned that he'd be that stupid, because I'm talking about Trump's action, because of the number of parts that are attached to such a maneuver. It's not like you can take out somebody and treat them as a criminal who happens to be the president of a country and not piss off a whole lot of people. And that's exactly what's going to happen in this case. I don't care what they call him, drug runner, da 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 da, illegitimate president because he didn't step down when he lost his election, which sounds like President Trump. Uh, you know, it doesn't matter how you try to paint Nicolas Maduro. The fact of the matter is, Nicolas Maduro was the duly acknowledged president of Venezuela. Was he acknowledged as such by the UK Prime Minister Keir Starmer? No. How do I know? Because my company is on the Prime Minister of UK's press list. He said so. Uh, so you have international powers that are also for this, who also, it just so happens, have great relationships with these oil companies. All right? So there it is. My mom asked me what's going to happen to Trump after this. I said, nothing. Nothing. There's no election threat for him. The Democrats, my party, are going to saber rattle, but the bottom line is, unless they can prove, and here's where the problem is, that Nicolas Maduro, wasn't such a bad guy, right? And if they can prove that effectively, then what do they do? Because right now, they're doing a great job of making Nicolas Maduro look like the perfect foil. I mean, perfect. Um, and you really have to want to read Venezuelan focused material to discover that yes, he wasn't that popular. Yes, he was considered corrupt. Yes, there were a number of questions about how he ran Venezuela, basically not well, but he wasn't so hated that there was a shockingly large uprising to get him out. And therein lay the problem. There's some people who, they like their devils, right? I remember when the Berlin Wall came down, someone was interviewed in Hungary, and that person said that, well, I like my line. I'm used to having lines. What do I do now? People are generally used to the kind of life that they live. And when you come in and you throw cold water on them and change because you think with your value structure that they're going to just adjust and say, oh, I'm thank God, you're in for a rude awakening. I even remember a long time ago, was a woman I was really interested in and met at my gym and went out for dinner, or was supposed to, but then she told me she had a boyfriend. And but she told me at like the last minute before we were about to go out to dinner. And I said, so, okay, so what's going on? You live together? She goes, no. Well, I said, oh. She said, we're kind of separated. I said, okay, so let's go out to dinner. She says, well, I'm afraid. I said, what? Why? And she said that she was afraid that he was going to beat her if he discovered that he left her house. So I came over, I picked her up. First place we went to was the police. Took her to the Oakland police, filed a police report. Turned out that this guy was also head coach of the Fremont High basketball team. I kid you not. Okay. He was also a toll taker at the San Francisco Oakland Bay Bridge, is where they arrested him. All right. So point I'm making is, and then after we went through all that, we finally made it to dinner, and she said the following: here I am having a great time with eating dinner, and he's in jail. I feel sorry. That's what she said. This about a person who had beaten her. All right. So just because you take an action you think is heroic doesn't mean it's going to be regarded as such by the person you're trying to help. And so that's why I don't think this was truly, really thought through, not let alone absolutely necessary to do right now, except, there are people who say, well, he did this to take the eye off Epstein. It wasn't so much taking the eye off Epstein, although it does provide some of that, but that action was a part of Project 2025. It was listed, the need to essentially solve the Venezuelan problem, as precisely that, because of the situation there with its human rights violations, and this was paramount, its importance to energy. All right? Its importance to energy. All right? So don't think that this was just something that Trump did to take us off Epstein. No. This was something that was a key goal in terms of reaching the objective of, changing how we do things. A key goal listed in Project 2025. All right. Subscribe to Zenny62 on YouTube. Help us get to 100,000 subscribers by year's end 2026. Thanks.